And Bernardsville at the Still I Rise gathering. Katrina, like this is the absolute manifestation where we was isolated. So, me on the back porch in Louisiana, you there in Vermont, like all of us. There's about 50 to 60 people out here real cautious and with gloves and masks and social distancing, and you know what I'm saying? But we recognize how strong this conversation is of resiliency in the face of adversity. Here we are, here's the Earth Tribe, and we're gathered, and it's amazing. It's amazing, my brother Rob, whose house and porch I'm on, that we could do all this. Huh? Right? And here's the pitch. We're the little niche that you and I and Imani and Alice, this little piece we've been weaving. Is that true? That the white folks that think all Black Lives Matter have something real to bring to the table? Over in that building there is an art exhibit of 8, my God, amazing, artistic, Hispanic, or African American. Okay, the village, which like all of us with these different amazing gifts that show up visually, whether in photography or on canvas or on wood, mine is, and we benefit. That's what I'm talking about. You can stay all day over there talking about reparations or what you think should happen, or you could just do it. And the people present on this land, they just did it. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm feeling pretty good. Katrina is where I am this week. You know what I'm saying? Because I recognize Alina's down here somewhere from Growing Goddess. She just finished up her 4th and final summer camp, cautiously, social distancing, less children. She had the 4 to 6-year-olds last week. She's a mother herself. And so the thing that we believe all these years about who we are in nature and the Earth Tribe, that's real. That's my report on this Sunday, August 9th, after the Lions Gate. Yeah, that's real talk. That's real. And a lot of people were giving lip service to it. I guess they're still at home in the headlines and the social media feeling trapped. This is what we talked about. It was amazing. I stayed in this beautiful yurt last night. And the gathering of those that, and we all did. So, and at a time, got too many, and I was like, okay, you at the door, that's it. We're conscious of what we're doing here. And we did move outside for our ritual crossing the line to close that up. But it was a fabulous conversation. And that's what I said to many. I said, I'm going to bring this to Web of Love this morning, because this conversation of resiliency, truth be told, people don't find out how resilient they are till the tragedy hits. You're supposed to navigate your resiliency before any tragedy hits in order to avoid the tragedy, actually, if you're on top of your game. And it was just a very powerful discussion of where we learned it and how it lives. Is it just in food, shelter, clothing? Or do you now know that your mental and emotional and spiritual bodies also have to be extremely resilient? What does that mean? You're able to hang on, you're able to survive, you're able to go the distance, you're able to innovate, you're able to be that co-creator with a limited number of resources, or reach out into the webs of our connections and find those resources now. It's all of that. And so, of course, we had to have that conversation. That's hard. Why aren't we having the major conversation? And what are we afraid of with one another? And why would we almost be distracted or be preoccupied with anything else other than becoming more comfortable with our truth, becoming more comfortable with the fact that we're not going to all agree, that there's not something osmosis is going to drop down and everybody just go be peace and love. That's not going to happen. We were just talking around the campfire, and some people were like, yeah, it'll be so good when this just goes away. And they weren't exactly speaking of the COVID. They were speaking of the division and the hatred and the backbiting and the crazy. When this just all goes away. And I said, don't you see that as your template? Don't you see that Todd Love there saying the same thing, that this is just going to magically go away? Where's it going? Where's it going? And so if we don't recognize as lighthouses that ours is to beam upon the darkness and distinguish it. And I pointed to the fire. Like an hour ago, that was wood in that fire burning, and now it is ashes. What are light workers going to do with the darkness? Dissolve it, banish it, because any remnant of it might get passed down to my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren. I'm not having it. I did have that discussion with a number of lights here. You see, the common conversation is, why would we pass less than was given to us? And that's saying a lot, given the history we come from. Why would we give less than that to the children coming behind? Why would we do that? Like, does that make sense to anybody? Like, you know, got half an economy, half your health, everything's gone down to a lower vibration, and you feel like it's okay. And that's, you know, in a long and a short, you know, people can get as huffy as they want to about the defunding of the police or sending the children back to school or anything you don't like the way that is phrasing. But at the bottom line, you do have to make a decision, whether you are a participant, a co-conspirator. Who are you in the mix of what the choices are on the table, and can you make new choices? And should you make new choices? You know what I'm saying? And so everybody, I say it again, I say everybody, you know, is still waiting, looking outside of themselves for the leader. I don't know, waiting for some, I give you permission. No, not gonna happen. Check again. This is what the movement from the age of Pisces that is drifting away from us and pushing us, propelling us forward in the age of Aquarius, detachment. Don't get stuck on the small stuff. Don't get stuck on the small stuff, the pettiness, the things that have been here all the while. And I said that to someone else this morning, you know, our obsession with the negativity of our past is closing us off and shutting us down and keep getting us stagnated and stuck in a place where we can't go forward. That's crazy. That's really crazy. Okay. And so that we know what that is, you know, when you really feel shut down, because that's the common thing. How come we will not vision and co-create our way forward? And most people in that conversation would say, because I don't know how. Nobody has shown me the tools by which to recalibrate the equation and to deal with all the negatives of society that the positives are having to move through right now. And most of all, not to repeat the mistake of trying to overpower the negatives. That's what we just lived through, the patriarchy and power over. No, that's not the way. Again, dissolve, dilute. How much light can your lighthouse pour in that dilutes the darkness, that just breaks it up? It cannot exist. I don't know. As a little girl, that's what they told me. They say, in the light, there is no darkness at all. Okay? And that's the truth. In bright light, you might, depending on where the light's coming from, see a shadow or two. But largely, the dark room is immediately light as soon as you flick on the light switch, or as soon as you light the candle. Or, you know, you embody the light yourself. So resiliency, I just thought it was, you know, such a powerful, because either we're going to do that or not. You know, you know, I'm so, that's what I said in the class yesterday. I said, I'm so largely dealing with my own disappointment in humanity. I thought we were a little further along than it's actually showing up. I did not think that the level of ignorance or whatever that is was that thick. And the deeper we go into this rabbit hole, that is what's showing up. And one of my basic rules for life is when people show you who they really are, believe them. I heard that when Maya Angelou put it out there, and it's real. And you don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it. You don't even have to reason for yourself why people are where they are or saying what they are saying or doing what they are doing. But you do have to be in a place of acceptance. Like that is. And that reflects this way on my different choices. A minute ago, when I thought your integrity or you were or this, no. Now, my emotions, and this is what we're talking about, of the resiliency of our mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies. There's resistance, and then there's resiliency. There is stuck, and then there is flowing. And so We have to have those conversations with ourselves. It's really, a lot of people thought they were locked inside because of the pandemic, when in fact the larger cosmos said, no, I think you people need to sit in the corner. It's a timeout, folks. Just like you give disobedient children a timeout. It's a timeout. And you've got to have the serious conversations with yourself before you can come out of the corner. And how many people is like hanging drapes in their corner and shit? They just so damn comfortable in the corner that they're not even trying. And it's interesting because we had a panel discussion of among the 8 artists. It was fabulous. And the second question, she asked us, number one, how our art affected social change. That was interesting on the part of everyone on the stage. But the second question was, what do you do to keep going, to stay motivated, to be unstuck? And I was reflecting that, you know, I saw myself again, as I do in many aspects of my life, as simply a channel or a flute or a paintbrush through which another whole dynamic hits and lands and arrives and manifests in a very physical way. And, you know, we each have that to embrace. What are our gifts? What are our medicines? What are the places that no matter how little or how frail or how, you know, some people just have bits of their memories, their cellular memories. But we were all called to this time. That came forward. Those are the facts, ladies and gentlemen. With 160,000 souls ascended, and you find yourself still here. Yes, we were born for this time, which means that somewhere in our DNA is coded the medicine, the prescription. Yeah, how did the little lady from the wheelchair that they said, oh my goodness, we don't know if you'll ever walk again with braces. How did she manage to be in the woods? Like, I don't know, a month in the road. I don't like, really. But and a lot of people, we all come together, and we were talking about, here's another one. We got another, you know, we try to give tips every Sunday. Colloidal silver. What are the integration of allies? We've gone over the antivirals that if you do on a regular basis and are disciplined in the priesthood of your body, and I am, fresh ginger and turmeric and cinnamon and oregano, and now colloidal silver in any of your liquids, your waters, your teas, your lemonade, lemons. And you're doing this and doing this. I don't know how many of the teachers, all very gifted here, you know, spoke to this. That where is your fear reduced? Where is your resiliency built up? Oh, it's in the place where you have your own self-care protocols. You have your own COVID protocols in here. You're not waiting outside for anyone else to come and say, okay, you can do this and this and this. You know, we've been through the dress rehearsal. It's over now. We are now moving into on stage, you know, the showtime, as my Abba would say, it's showtime. Yeah. And the question at hand is, how do we show up as our best selves, our strongest and brightest lighthouse at any moment, And the fact that, you know, the non-melanated, hippie white Appalachian kindred of this circle that would come together and say, this is what we can do for people of color. We don't have to talk about it any longer. This is it right here. We're going to ask them to bring all of their art and virtually expose the community to it and say, well, if you want to do something, if Black lives really are mattering for you, and you know and hear and have time to interface with the mission, the divine mission of these particular 8 artists that came, that are, as Maya Angelou put out there, in the constant motion of still I rise, you know, no matter the bitterness below or the heartbreak below or anything below that crystal stair that we were all promised, still we rise and you know, we're able to regenerate. And that is what has to happen. There's only so long that we can talk about the negativity and the downward turn of what has already happened and what is happening. Here's what you know, the old people say, this too shall pass. And so the light-minded folks might want to give a little time and thought and discussion to what the rebuilding looks like, the bridge building looks like. We talked about that. It was so inspiring. You know, you get about a dozen to 20 people on that idea, and like you're going to come up with some really good information, because that was the point. You know what I mean? If we understand that we have to find the common ground on the middle of the bridge, well, the obstinate or the people way far to the opposite or the other polar and on the other side of the bridge, I don't know. Are they hanging out over there with arms open and come on over, the water's fine? Or are we open to that level of an invitation? Or is it the Mexican standoff? Don't nobody want to move from either side of the bridge. We can't even make it to the middle. These are the things we have to determine, beloveds, if we're going to have a brighter day for our children. Absolutely. What does that look like? And you know, are we just so far smothered in the outrageous behavior of people who are in a downward spiral, mentally, emotionally, and otherwise? They do not have, you understand? You want to look at the visual of what does it look like to see humans that are at a loss to access their own resiliency. Open your eyes and look around the world we are moving in right now. You see? And so it's a balance. It's a constant balancing act. Can we talk about that for a moment? That what did Brother Rob said, somebody at whatever time in the morning, early wee morning hours, that the earth shook 5.1 over here. This is Barnardsville. I got a call all the way from, I think it's somewhere around Seneca, South Carolina, that this has happened. The earth shook. Lions Gate 8-8 yesterday. The earth shook. Say, oh, is somebody running on your porch? No, I think that's an earthquake. And so the earth, the pressure, these mounting pressures, understand and work with it and understand, because this is where nature is our church. And if we are in alignment or agreement, these are the forces of nature are our allies. Then as the hurricane passes through, tropical storm pours all this water and does bring a certain amount of flooding, you go, okay, all right, well, if I need a boat, here it is. And I'm in a prayer of purification. And may we all rise to move with the tides that are cleaning us up. And if the earth rocks and shakes, that pressure that goes in and say, where is all, again, I just said to you, where is all that frustration and negativity and anger? Where is it going to go? Is anyone sending it off planet? Okay. And so the earth say, well, maybe not. Maybe I just have to take that energy in and crush it. And yes, my body will shake for a little while because it has to be crushed. You humans cannot elevate if you keep getting pounded with the same level of negativity and pressure, emotional pressure. That is not your emotional resiliency. That is the good health of your emotions being broke down. And we simply have to pay more attention. It's that's the dress rehearsal is over. It is about self-discipline in the morning. Yes, we're going to wear the mask. We're going to wash our hands. We're going to do all of that. But to move in a level of confidence that says, I'm really good, because if, despite all my hand washing and my social distancing and my mask wearing, an airborne bacteria was to come in my presence, and I have to say, you know, not everybody's been changed by these things like moi. But the mere fact that we went through the 2-year paralysis at the hands of yellow jackets, or not so much the hands, but the stingers of yellow jackets. And now to watch whenever a stinger approaches me, literally to watch them only be able to get to my auric field and back up. That is what happens when you fill your body with these antivirals, with these allies, in which creates an amazing barrier in your immune system. And that's real. Okay, I'm just here to tell you, when they can't figure out the testing and the contact tracing and the numbers, and okay, and you don't want to fall for the conspiracy theories and like all of that subterfuge, okay? The basic is, what is your sacred discipline of holding your own self-care? What are you and you and you in your immune system talking about and navigating in every day, that you don't have to live in fear? Do you have protocols? You know, it's a spirit level. And I find you got tested. Of course, it got tested here. People say, "Are you hugging?" No, I'm not. Wakanda. Okay, and yet my elder, Baba Yona, that's here. He would come up, you know, and elders. He got on his mask. I got on my mask, and of course, I do not turn my elder, because that's my blessing. As a good child, you know this. So you have to navigate it. And this is why we teach, and we do invite you again. We can't find that, Katrina. I'm just going to put that out there, that web of love, that we did an overview of the fall curriculum for the Mystic School of Alchemy. But this is a big piece of it, is, you know, who are we? Are we healing? And what are the tools we need to do that? Because all of these things do play such a vital role in being able to show up as our best selves for ourselves. Ultimately, that's a positive for everyone else we come in contact with. But what it is that, you know, we feed the ego with, or we think we need to do to make ourselves feel better or good or whatever that is, it's not. I say to people religiously, it's not the Sangoma show. It is never the Sangoma show. Sangoma has shown up on behalf of the ancestors and the larger energies that you may or may not see that accompany her, that's going to move around your pain body. We had a gentleman now waiting to get his reading. And that's what we say. And, you know, again, of course, Spirit talking to him, come out some things that he hadn't told me. He just sat down. I barely know his name. So he was like, how do you know that? And I bet it's because it's not me. Because when you ask to come and have a council like that, your ancestors sit with my ancestors, and this time is a covenant and agreement. I think that was his question. He wanted us to elaborate a little bit more on how do the agreements and covenants between the living, the dead, and those waiting to be born, how does that work? Said the father of 3 daughters that he doesn't see now because it was very messy in his life around the relationships with the baby mamas. And so, as we said, this journey moving into the fall, just some really, really good grounding instruments for our own activation, the conversations that we've put aside, or, you know, not gone right toward, and said, you know what, I've been carrying this crazy bullshit I've been telling myself for long enough, and I think I'm ready to have the discussion of what a different choice is. What's another choice? What's the B plan? Okay, A plan not working so much. What's the B plan? As opposed to what Jane is doing or what Bob is doing. We're over with. The reason that a lot of your tribes of people of color got in trouble in the first place is because somebody else was trying to tell their story. That's numero uno right through here. People want to know what's really changed. How is this unlike any other time? Why will this not be swept under the social rug? Because somebody woke up and said, you know what, we got here because somebody else was telling our story, and it's a really choke the breath out of us kind of thing. We're selective what they tell you, which part of the history you want to hear. Hawaii was the 50th state because everything was okie dokie, or people actually were massacred in their own sugar field to become the 50th state without the right to vote. And what you don't know will hurt you. I just, you know, I have to repeat that as a part of resiliency. Do not think you can move forward to do something different. That's what they say. Insanity is what? Oh, doing the same thing, thinking you go get a different result. That's insanity. And on each day-by-day moment, okay, insanity in a lighthouse is like an infection, or what they call a virus in a computer. Let me say that again. Insanity, and in case that's not a, you know, we're not throwing a bad word and judging other people. We are just saying the definition of that is doing the same thing over and over, probably because you didn't do your homework and research where we already been at this rodeo. And you think how can you get a different result? I wish if somebody could answer me that today on the live, whoever love Facebook page, you just go ahead and holler at me. How can you get a different result doing the same thing over and over and over again? You cannot. And so if it is time for you to invest all of your alchemy, the alchemy of all of your bodies and all of the agreements between those that were before and those that are coming after you, if that's where you are going to the West Gate this fall, holla. There's some really, really, really good things happening online. You know, it's I think 6 or 8 weeks. It might even be 7 this time, because we navigated it right between that week before the fall equinox and rounding up after the weekend of souls, because obviously, you know what I mean, we don't want to cast it out, but it's a fair bet to say we'll be 200,000 ascended by the 1st of November. And like a Coco movie, it would be really time for everybody to have their arendas and have their sacred places, even for the folks that you don't know, because the agreements are between the living, the dead, and those waiting to be born. And those of us that are surviving, in order to take what we have learned from there, if those lives sacrificed are not in vain. This is a little song me and my mother's mother sang every night at my piano. She was saying, may my living, may it not be in vain. Another theme that came up in that, it was an amazing discussion yesterday. And so some people had to navigate in the middle of their conversation. Let me see, am I more afraid of living than I am of dying? Particularly people not wearing the mask, or maybe they don't know, or whatever, they're good. And those are the facts. Those people actually are more afraid of living, making real different choices and decisions than they are of dying. I mean, if when in doubt, go back to the little teenagers on the beaches in March in Florida, and now they are singing a very different song. Those of them that have survived that decision. This is what the old people told us to make sure that we would know. There's always consequences to your actions. A wise person will try to weigh out and navigate what those consequences might be based on any given action. This is when old people would tell you, don't jump from the frying pan to the fire. Just hang on a minute at the pause button. Oh, by the way, let me go over that. Let me go over a clear visual. This was a good one because it kind of kicked my day off in arriving here yesterday. So even though we were in real good touch with the coordinators and all like that all week, okay, how's it working? You got the rent-a-car, okay, how's it working? Yesterday, when we put the address in the GPS and found that we were coming way up in Bernardsville, where, you know, and we go through that where, oh, it's a place we've never been before. We have no familiar. Oh, we'll pass through there. I know there because friends live up that side of the mountain, but no, I've never been up Dillingham Road. Oh, okay. And then your phone goes out. Then you're suddenly in the backwoods of the North Carolina mountains, a black woman with no phone, no GPS, no nothing. And you following the little numbers on the mailbox. And so you get to a place that looked like it skipped from 440, like, where's it going? We're looking for 445. And there's a woman outside in a car. And so it's very narrow. You couldn't turn your car around. 2 cars can't even be on that road at the same time because you're in the backwoods of North Carolina. Thank God we're still in daylight. And we say to the lady, could you help us? We're looking for 445. And she says, I'm 447. But she's standing out on the road, so I don't know which is her house property. So I go, okay, well, if you'll help me navigate how to back into that driveway and turn the vehicle around, must be those structures down there, I'm saying to myself, which is like a little side lower level that you have to go down and around and go into. We did. And as we turned into it, there was like a picture window size Confederate flag. Guess what happened? The wisdom in us say, pause. It wasn't fear. I saw the gentleman down there in the yard. Pause. These are our new levels of respect. And I said that because then I had to back out and go back down Dillingham Road and to the post office, where I waited and put on their Facebook like I did this morning about not being able to get in. Oh, well, we're hanging out at the post office in Bernardsville until someone comes and leads us on land, because we did not feel it appropriate to just roll into the yard of a Confederate flag right here where we are in America in 2020 August. And you know what? In 5 minutes, there were 3 vehicles and 4 people that had chimed into my phone, which was them working down there at the post office. Yeah, but we'll come get you right now. Because why? We have to navigate. And so when I got back, you know, I was sure to say to the people, I hope everyone heard that in the free love space that it was. No, they weren't down there with red hats and a shotgun and was I scared? That wasn't the issue. If I have a black liberation flag at the edge of my property, that's exactly what it says. That's not the American flag. That's not a Christian flag. That's a flag that I think means something different. And maybe I shouldn't trespass. Maybe I shouldn't assume that the welcome mat is out for me. Doesn't make me judge or think that's a bad person. Just says that's what they want in the front of the yard, so you would know. How about that? So in the approach, because it was not a small little picture size Confederate flag, tells a black person up in the backwoods of North Carolina without a phone signal, don't roll onto this land just like that. People might be open to talking to you, and then again, they might not. It's a little edgy out here right now. And you just respect that. You don't have to make a judgment or decision about that, you know, or feel threatened. I didn't feel threatened by it. My car immediately, like an automatic pilot in my spirit body said, pause. You need to back up. You don't belong on this property. And I said to those listening, I said, and how right am I in that? How are you able to navigate that? Because the second I stopped, what was the option of the gentleman in the yard that could clearly see me? They could have waved and said, oh, can we help you? Are you lost? Huh? And then you know the angelic form that they might take, but they did not do that. You see. And so some of these, you know, people really want it all to be just out in their face in black and white. And that's how these clashes are happening. See, how are they happening? Are we not learning lessons from black people dying in the streets at the hands of just what? You have to learn how to follow, as my grandmama say, the signs and the symbols. You have to learn to know how to see what's in front of your physical eyes, and more important than that, how to see what is open in your third eye. You have to see that. We're here, 2020, about to roll into 2021 in a whole different age of Aquarius. How do we gain that emotional detachment? How do we as a humanity pick up from these really sad mistakes that have a lot of people buried, people who started this year with us that are no longer here? That's real. That's real. And resiliency, I'll say it again, the theme here for this year's Still I Rise gathering was resiliency in the face of adversity. And I think out of everything that we teach, sacred activism and adventures and culture and nature and spirit, like that topic right there, what is your resiliency? Like, I'm going to be chewing on that for a minute. I think by the time we get to our first class, I think the open house for our fall season is September 15th. It's Tuesday Temple Nights that weekend. We have 2 weekends, one in September around the solstice, and the other one, of course, at the end of October, beginning of November. Again, few people on the compound in Oyotunji, learning some really good homesteading skills, some really good medicine making, some really good, what do we need for our resiliency? How do we take the ingredients that we have in this life that has got to be rebuilding post-pandemic, post-Trump, post-racial wars? Where do we go from here? How are we in the evolution of our next steps We don't feel uncertain or afraid or inadequate or not up to the challenge. We're up to the challenge. Other people have died and left. We are still here. And that, I say to you, is destiny. Is to say, why are you still left here? Do you not wonder? Do you think, what does Jim Carrey say? Are you feeling lucky today? You just think that you can go to the stores or anywhere in the mixture of people and COVID won't bother you. Why? Because you have a purpose, because you have a mission. And I say that to people continually because they really wonder. They'd be like, yeah, shouldn't you be somewhere like kind of locked down, contained in? Not so many people around. And I do say, my mission carries me. And my mission always reminds me when to step forward, when to step back, or when to stand still. And it could be as simple as the evening meal. If 5 people ask to bring me some food, and I say, I don't know yet. Let me check in with me. Because I haven't gone over there to see what's the protocol. I say, oh no, everyone has gloves and masks, and people are like totally, really freaking far apart because they all understand that we're going to ingest a food that's being served over there in a time like this. Let us take the appropriate protocols and health protocols. And they're just very stern about it. And, which tells us resiliency. You see, for all those people that's standing out there just pulling out their guns, and the fact that somebody is taking some of their rights or rights or privileges away from them based on a mask, if that is still a conversation for anyone out here in August of 2020, the idea is that we can all move in an amazing state of liberation, free as all, then it's because we know what decisions support that liberation. We know what we have to pick and choose, and maybe we can't go forward to everything. There probably is a step back, observe, hit the pause button, make sure that you have weighed it out, weighs the truth. Love her, the clan mother of March, weighs the truth. How are you weighing out the truth? What truths are you working with today? Yours or somebody else's? Or truths that were handed down to you from some other time, in some other setting, where people were dealing with a whole different level in the equation, and to a certain degree, yeah, this time is unique unto itself, even though in the 1800s or whenever it was, the 1900s, that pandemic, yeah, different things, scarlet fever, polio. Look at the different plagues that have come on the planet. Well, did you have technology to this degree? 5G, internet, obviously people of color, black and red people, wasn't as fed up as they are right now. That you would have, masses of people saying no. Once we have enlarged our vision, there's no way to shrink it back down. And that's what you find all these months later with people of color and others still in the street protesting, not willing to shrink that conversation back down, not willing to act like that didn't happen. And that is not the culmination of an ongoing 400-year-old story. That's time for it to change. Everyone, you say that, and everyone is on that. Where are we meeting on the middle of the bridge? However we are going to do the change, we all agree that the change must happen. Where's the agreement? It's right there. Pretty much everyone is not okay, not satisfied with, this is the best our generation could do, and we're going to go ahead and hand it down to you, crumbled as it is. The economy, no clues, no, know how you do it. That conversation rolled back around this morning to House Bill 6666. Another one. I love if y'all interact with me and anybody that's hearing about this just ahead of this next stimulus plan and this infamous vaccine that is just, going to get here before the end of the year. I'll say again, if they have food stamp cards and EBT cards and your driver's license, and if you don't have none of those, you better have a state ID. And what does happen with the undocumented people as to the documented people? So what will they require of you to prove that you have been vaccinated? All that's coming down the pike. And just when you think that you are comfortable enough to make good adjustments and decisions for the cards that were dealt in March or here in August, trust. The cards are being reshuffled right here at the moment, boo. There's going to be a whole nother hand dealt by mid-September, by mid-October. That is the nature of change and evolution. And where we are going to drop all of this negativity and darkness out, rapid change, rapid evolution. And I won't lie to you, it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. Even those of us that have the ability to flow and hold multiple truths at one time, we still recognize that it's exhausting, emotionally, mentally, and physically exhausting. And whereas we thought we had to get 29 things done in a day a minute ago, we don't anymore. We understand that. We understand burnout. We understand overdrive. And whether or not we fall into a nap at any given moment, if our body says, stop, you're done. No phone, no talk. Go somewhere and just lay out for a minute. Let your body rest. Because the levels of light coming into the planet, the levels of energy that you're taking in, and then as lighthouses, the amount of darkness that you're willing to pull into you and transmute it and send it back out as healing, enormous, enormous, enormous. And so we have to take good care with that. We have to be gentle with ourselves. And remember our dear medicine. Remember that mantras are good. My friend Lena sang a song to me last night, if we're good, because I did promise live reports from this thing, but it's just been totally wacko. Let me just say that. On a prayer and a shoestring, they got me on to this call this afternoon. It's not like you could just stand over there and talk to your phone. No, it's not like that up here in these particular backwoods. But yeah, it was just about how, giving love into the house, and the house bringing harmony. And if there's harmony in our houses, then it spills over into the nation. And once there is that level of harmony in the nation, then the world has peace. And that's our mantra every day. Some people rise and drink cups of coffee. My friend Lena rises and sings that mantra 3 times to the sun. This is what I'm saying. I hope that that's what's inspiring. When we come into our lighthouse work and or teachings of the clan mothers and or our ancient mystics who are all among us, the Carolyn Maces, the different ones that are coming up. I just was referring again this morning in conversations around the campfire, many to James Redfield and Hank Wesselman, Spirit Walker, and Firewalker. And I am impressed, Greg Braden. Again, I say to you, if you're going to take somebody's word, why don't you talk to the people who were scientists that didn't have any belief in otherworldly things a minute ago? Read their stories. Hear what they have to say after doing the scientific investigation of what returns and returns and returns. All of those authors that we mentioned, and they are on the book list. And again, we drop a lot of books and movies out there as a visual example what happened at some other rodeos. And it's always in our Classroom Collective Facebook group. You can hit a button there, a backstory about us or something like that. It may even say movie and book list. You should check it out. You should check it out, because in due time, winter is coming. And I have so many. When I was in Barnes and Noble, which was the first for me, she said, "Are you?" And I was. "Are you one of those, discounted Barnes and Noble book lover things?" I said, "Well, I was, but that was pre-pandemic, which seems lifetimes ago." So she reinstated me because there are so many amazing books. And just like attending all the funerals, George Floyd and John Lewis, and not feeling powerless, but empowered with the grief that you're helping the families and the people close in those communities whole. No, that life was struck down, but those of us who join in the memory of them, they'll never die. They only translate to another form. And this, my friends, is what we are figuring out. It's a broad, broad conversation, but it's magical of how we regenerate our ancient resiliency, how we respect the fact that, you know, most of what Geronimo, Chief Seattle, any of the Native Americans who tried to tell us as we were breaking the many treaties and covenants and agreements with them, what was the key to living in one in harmony with nature and the way that the earth is moving. That's really vital. And I, you know, where we got off in this greed and arrogance as human beings to think that we was running it. Okay, I think we know different now. Most human beings right here, they do know different. You're not in charge of nothing. Your entire existence and basis in the world right now is based on how well you are able to be a good citizen, or whether you're up from eviction from the earth. That's right. I said it. Whether you are up for eviction from the earth, be it COVID, hurricane, earthquake, if you serve no purpose here, or you're lost as your purpose, why are you still here? Why are you still here? And our younger ones, our grandchildren, our younger ones, believe me, in the pages where they don't know, or they're uncertain, or they're afraid, or they're timid, they're looking at the old folks. Didn't we, when we were younger? I don't know about you, but yeah, when I saw riots in the street and black people being hosed down and dogs being leashed on them, I looked to my grandmother, I looked to the older people. I said, well, how are they walking? Because she take 4 trains from New York to New Jersey every friggin' day to get to her job by 7 a.m. in the morning. For 25 years and 6 months, she did that in the face of whatever. Protests for Vietnam, buildings burning down, whatever. My grandmother did not miss her job, her work. And when she was a nurse, a medical person, a frontliner, like they have there now in that pharmaceutical company. And so we have to decide who we really are, because, man, I was saying that, you know, years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago, I kept hearing myself repeat this to young people who seemed doubtful or confused. And I was like, well, all you got to do is step out of these lies you're telling yourself about yourself. And the sad part about it is you think that you're in conflict with the lies that other people are telling about you, your so-called friends or your family you come from, or people that don't know you or that you work with. But the truth is, the bartender said one thing, the drunk said another. And so your story is your story. If you, the captain of the ship, get on up to the, you know, steer this thing and put your story in a proper order. Weed out those untruths that don't speak to who you are, that do not define who you are or where you're going. Get rid of it. Compost it. Put it back for the good of another. Maybe somebody else is in need of those lessons that you've just come through. Yeah, you don't have to be mad about it. I said to the young man, you know, in search of how to build relationship with his daughters on the earth. You know, start right here for the rest of your life. Let your lighthouse shine to wherever they are and into their hearts, because after all, your blood is running in their veins. After all, there is no separation really in the spirit or the nature of our connectedness. And so I hope that that's helped a few people this week. I don't know where we are in time. Did I step over on JWoww yet? No? Okay, good. So let's see, what do we want to take away? What are our takeaways from this week? Resiliency. You know, I think we've been you know, like a swimmer, trying to keep our head above the water of so many worries of our bills and our economic health, and you know, our physical health. And then there's our emotional health, and, you know, in some communities over here, racial health. And that for me, again, it was something else planned when a month ago when I got asked to come to this. I can't even tell you what it was, because when the theme came to talk about resiliency in the face of adversity, like I just couldn't have said it better. And I think it's there. I think, behind the extremes that you see when hurricanes come, everybody go to the markets. They stock up on the staples just in case the power goes out. And so we know parts of resiliency, but I promise you that the inner resiliency, oh man, it's like it's almost like a house of mirrors. It's like a glass house. It's like a labyrinth. There are so many hidden corners in there that are painful to us, and stuff is flying by so quickly, that we're trying to take in what it is like, you see, but it's okay. I've said this to some folks as well. The detriment of where we've been is that if this is right, that must be wrong. If this is true, that must be false. You see that either or. And now in this expanded consciousness, there are many lenses through which to look through. There are multiple. This is true, and this can also be true at the same time. And where we are in what level of belief we invest in order to hold two truths that seem like opposing truths, but we hold both of them simultaneously, you see. And so it's just like that. One yard might fly a Confederate flag, and another one might fly a Black liberation flag. Well, it is true. If I go to my RV in Oyerton, that definitely is what hangs. Our flags hang. Over here, right, 2 yards down, the Confederate flag. Does that make either one of those wrong or false? No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And this place in which this narrow place in which we lived of the either or reality is expanding. And that is a deep conversation of what we are willing to allow ourselves to evolve in. What are the snake skins that we are shedding? They're done. They're dried. They are ready to release, because all these new cells of our new skin has already begun regeneration, coming forward, preparing us for this huge shift. Huge shift. I do believe that there are very sensitive people on the earth, and very to people that are very tapped in energetically, that can feel this web of love is definitely a gathering of many of those lights, can feel energetically. We will not be in January 2020 where we are here in August 2021, where we are here in August of 2020. We will not be. We know that. And we'd be hard pressed to try and give all the details of what that might look like. And yet there's visioning, there's intention, there's how do we shape that creation. And maybe that is the beauty of this time, for those out here to pick the minds of the artists who begin a painting, or who see a certain shot through the camera, through photography, and they say, how do you see that in your vision? And we've had great conversations between the waking and the sleeping walk of many artists, and where it meets and where it intersects, so that people can find their sacred selves again. Go in there. And I said that, and because people are like, well, how can you build your resiliency once you get a little bit of a handle on it? How do you hold on to it and build on it? You fall deeply, head over in heels in love with the sacred self that you finally reveal to yourself. Like the lover that Rumi talks about, like the lover you've been waiting for all your life, is how you fall in love with your sacred self, and you never let go. You never let go. You know that? Maybe people know that. Maybe some people here have been blessed enough to know that love affair, that even if you hug all night and you got to go somewhere together, you're still holding hands and move to go together, because you don't want to break that connection for whatever reason. It feels like us is bigger and more enduring than me alone. That's what that kind of togetherness and connectedness feels like. And I say that beautiful kind of a light in a lighthouse shouldn't even have an on and off switch at the door, okay? It shouldn't even be a way for you to shut off the light in that at all, period, full stop. And very few people know that, I'm so sorry to say. Very few people through the trauma and the pain, body, and, you know, many woundedness, abandonment. I mean, okay, that list is endless of what crushed our soul in that place and separated us from our sacred lover within, from that which balances our masculine, our feminine, that place where the stem fits the bowl and the prayer of our life goes up to great mystery. What shattered that? What broke that apart? And so consider that. I think that I'm glad we just illuminated that a little bit longer, because I think we're wondering, you know, in that place of barely being able to support our own truths, how to really show up and be there as a level of support for others that don't have that someone to lean on, or someone to listen to, or someone holding their back so that they can energetically pull themselves up by the bootstraps. And I know as about 4 or 5 people was trying to help me get on here, I was constantly, because they would say, well, who is Web of Love? Who are they? So I was like, oh, well, right over there across that mountain is Imani and Swananoa. And then right up there, just to go far, all the way to Vermont is Katrina. And then there's Kathleen and Christy. And my goodness. And what do we all have in common? Doesn't matter where we are. We can show up in this container knowing that our prayers might have different words, but they all come from the same love. That is the web of love. That is it. Want to join? Come on in. We got plenty of strands available for people that want us to hold it. And the more connected strands that we have, ooh, the levels of those that we can hold that are not able to yet hold themselves, let alone hold up. What was it? John Lewis said, the beloved community. Yeah, resiliency. What does it take to hold up the beloved community? And that's no sense of martyrdom or, you know, because if we left and went on to the next side this hour, there's people that will walk in the truth of what we've been teaching all along. You know, my grandchildren for sure. They would say, well, if I'm going to remember my Grammy well, you will see part of her and me. That's what my life is dedicated to, because people who see me, that is definitely what I'm bringing. The mere fact that you see me is to say Josephine still lives, Evelyn, Victor, all the people that raised me and gave me what you see, yes, they live because I live. Their physical robes have been dropped, but they live because I live, because I'm here to give that light of illumination of what they have instilled in me that is eternal. That's what we say of my beloved Godfather, and I love saying it every time we get to the celebration, which is the 50th year, and we're going to have a little seal to our chieftaincy down in Oyotunji the first weekend in October. But that is what they said when the founder of Oyotunji crossed over and died. People in Africa said, oh my God, a great tree has fallen. They didn't know what else to say. And so my godmother or someone came up with this that said, you know, what a man does for himself dies with him. But what he does for others, thank you, remains and becomes eternal. And so lots of times when people ask me, they say, yeah, don't you ever get tired? How are you going to continue to go on? I say, because I am that living legacy of one who lived his life this way, so that when he had dropped his robes, all of the teachings and the energy and the strength and the will to go forward would remain. And for me, that's my definition of love. That's my definition of, you know, the continuation, love in motion, that place where there is no light switch. We never disconnect. The light never goes out. We are always fully present. If anything, we're figuring out how to charge up. Where's the generator to recharge the light that we are carrying? Yep, we have to. Because he was to depend upon it. Depend upon it. That some things like the sun coming up each day and the moon rising at night, it's just some things are cosmically true. And if we're wise, we learn to navigate our footsteps to be in sync or symphony with that, as opposed to try to work against that energy, because that's really crazy, you know. But again, I think slowly are people deciding that they can think for themselves, that they do not have to take the word of others that think they know. You know what I mean? I don't know. Some of us are born like that. I can remember giving the male people doctors before I didn't have a midwife, back in that time. I wish I did. And so there was a man still, and I looked at him. I said, "What are you trying to tell me about something you have never done? Please move." The day you squat and put a life out of your body, you might could tell me a thing or two here. Right now, I need to have this baby. Holla, move out my way. And so that's the thing that I think if we could respect that, that goes for crossing racial lines and cultures and everything. Like, it's okay to take it all in, but please try to be careful on what you think you know about the experience of another. I think that's where we missed it. I know it's not even I know that's where we missed it. How do we get careless with choosing our finest words to speak to one another, finding the kindness in our souls for each other? Right there, where we thought we knew a thing. We thought we knew a thing. I love it, because when I became a new priest, that, they give you the reading that says how you're going to move on as that priest. And I said, in and of herself, she is very unimportant. And that's true. That's why it's never the Sangoma show. It's not about me. It's never about me. I'm on the prayer now for my 6 granddaughters in particular. I think the grandsons will do another thing. But all the granddaughters have a different little piece of the medicine of their Grammy. I'm on that. I'm already, and that's ultimately what every great teacher has ever said to me. If I'm on my job, I'm already nurturing my replacement. I'm already in the reduplication of how it goes on. That's what's happening. That's the excitement, is to be engaged with your reinforcements. That totally gives you permission to then leave and graduate on and be reborn on the other side to help them from the ancestral realms. So it's exciting for me. I try to say with all these people with the doom and the fear and the gloom and everything, it's exciting. It's exciting. It's really dependent upon whether you see the glass half empty, half full. What lens are you looking through? How are you looking at this thing? Are you willing to change your mind about it? I just took my sweatshirt off. I love it. That's why I love Jonathan so deeply. We're changing the world by changing right in here. That's bells ringing loudest in our own backyard. Think that you be changing anybody else. Just let your light shine. Isn't that a good song? I think the first time I ever came on Web of Love, I sang that song. Hi, Katrina. I did. Because it's a good song, and I remember the old women in church patting their foot to it. Absolutely. So I didn't look, but I'm going to before we move over to JWoww. Yeah, they are. What up, girl? Girl.